So let's move on now. We'll talk about Cornel West. So he originally announced that he was going to run with the People's Party, and now he's changed his mind, and he's running with the Green Party. And West said he decided to run as a candidate for the Green Party to try to build a broad, united front and a coalition strategy. He said in his campaign launch video that his candidacy would be centered around healthcare, living wages, housing, reproductive rights, and de-escalating the destruction of the planet and democracy. He said he is running as a third-party candidate because neither party wants to tell the truth about Wall Street, Ukraine, the Pentagon, and big tech. That was a big one that he said Ukraine in there. That was a really big one. West faces long odds with his third-party run, but polls showing that many do not want President Biden or former President Trump to be their party's nominees could open up a greater support for the alternative candidate. So now they're already coming at him.
Yeah. Oh, the very liberal left-wing Nation magazine.
And then, of course, MSNBC says Cornel West's leftist presidential bid has right-wing. So they're already calling him. So I've laid this out since 2016. It's been obvious to me, and I've been telling our audience that as soon as you get to the left of the Democratic Party or left of a Democrat, they don't engage you in your debate with ideas. They first slander you and smear you, and and then they call you a right winger, and that's exactly what they did.
Right wing DNA.
Right wing DNA. So it's like when Joe Rogan endorsed Bernie Sanders, they call him a right winger. And so they're doing the same thing to Cornel West. And let me just show you this. This is interesting. Only 29% of Americans identify as Democrats. Still fewer, 27% identify as Republicans. 42% identify as independent. It's the largest block of voters. Right. And so saying Cornel West was running as an independent third-party candidate cannot win. That's acknowledging that the system is rigged. We agree, and that's going to change. So that's what he says. So that is kind of an agreement. So let me just get back. When he first announced he was going to run People's Party, now he's running Green. People said you had something to do with that. Did you? And what did you say that changed his mind?
Yeah, I did. I encouraged him to leave the People's Party, and I set up a meeting with Jill Stein and Ajamo Baraka. Zoom. We were all on a Zoom call, and let them run the pitch, but I supported it.
And what was the idea behind it?
Well, partly, having worked with Ralph Nader, I wasn't involved in it, but I was a speechwriter for Nader. I saw all of the impediments that were put up in terms of ballot access. It's expensive. Every single state is different. And the People's Party virtually doesn't have any ballot access. It just wasn't going to fly. The Green Party doesn't have a lot. And I'm acutely aware that the Green Party is not a well-oiled machine, to put it mildly. But at least it has experience, which Cornel doesn't have, of running campaigns. It does have some organization. It needs to be revitalized, especially by younger workers and volunteers. But it is, I think it's 20 states they're already on. And it has an infrastructure. You weren't going to be able to build a viable infrastructure, and I know how hard it is to build it, having watched Ralph do it. And I think it's important that Cornel be on as many ballots in as many states as possible.
I agree 100%. I think the real test will come after RFK Jr. drops out.
Yeah, of course.
And
that's right. That's right. And yeah, I mean, the thing about RFK Jr., and I agree with many of his positions, although not on Roger Waters. I thought that was really sleazy. Not on Israel-Palestine, which looks like he was just reading from a Democratic Party playbook. And I care a lot about that issue because I was the Middle East bureau chief for the New York Times. I spent 7 years there and a lot of time in Gaza. And that issue alone will drive me away. Nobody stands up for the Palestinians. So, if I'm all alone, I'll be all alone. And people forget that about Nader, by the way. Nader's parents were Lebanese, fluent in Arabic, Ralph. He's Christian, but he his Arabic is, I speak Arabic, it's pretty deteriorated, but I was in a restaurant with Ralph. I go, he's completely bilingual. So yeah, but I the thing about Cornel is that he has stood for these issues for decades. And I would give Bernie credit in terms of standing with labor. I mean, I didn't, I was as critical of Bernie as you were, but I don't think Bernie was a fake. What I worry about Bobby Kennedy Jr. is that a lot of these positions, I mean, he's been good on the environment, but I don't see that there's a long track record there of fighting these kinds of fights. With Cornel, he ain't gonna, he didn't just come to some political opinion because it was convenient or he thought it would sell. I mean, he's openly supporting reparations. I mean, I think white Americans, that's about 19% or something of white Americans support it. He ain't gonna back down on that kind of stuff. So but I think, even if you might disagree with Cornel on many issues, and I actually don't have many, there's not much daylight between me and Cornel, he just has impeccable integrity, and he has fought. I mean, he fought Obama, and people forget that during the Obama years, he was target number one. If you listen to black media, they called him a race traitor, and they locked him out, and they were rough. Obama had a thing for Cornel, and he stood his ground, and he will stand his ground now. I mean, we're very close friends and have been for many, many years. I know him inside and out and love him to death. And I can tell you he's real. I mean, I teach in a prison, as you know, and I brought Cornel in, and all my students said, "Oh, Dr. West. Well, the guy's got a full course load at Princeton. He's flying all over the countries. He came into that prison. There weren't any cameras. There wasn't no publicity. Nobody paid him. And he taught a philosophy course in there. I mean, he's the real thing."
Yeah, I really can't wait for the damn primary to be over now. So we could just get right to the general, and he gets to actually oppose Joe Biden and Joe Biden's unique brand of woke fascism, which
Right.
Which is what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with a two-party system. We're dealing with a one-party system. I think Cornel can really expose that. I think that's such a heartbreaker that RFK Jr. is running inside the Democratic Party, because they'll never let him grab power, and everybody knows it. So anyway. Well, good luck to Cornel. It's just starting, and the Green Party really got wrecked by Howie Hawkins. That guy is just
I know. I don't know where Howie went.
He's a real wrecking ball. That guy, if that guy's not on the payroll for the CIA, then he's the biggest chump I ever met in my life, because he should be being paid by the CIA to say all the stupid shit he said over the last 4 years.
He's doing it for free.
He's doing it for free. If he's doing it for free, it's like it's ridiculous. Even Cenk Uygur takes money from the anyway to say that shit. But anyway, yeah. So hopefully they can kind of get that Green Party up in the running order. But they, they get all the ballot access. They were on 44 ballots with Jill Stein, and so that's the important thing. So it
is. That's right.
And it doesn't matter their past; it matters now. And Cornel, I think, could certainly unite the people in the Green Party. What I hope is that he has a message for the right wing, populists, right? Like
he does, and he's said that he's going to go down to rural and southern white enclaves and take that message to Trump supporters, because that is, I mean, the whole pitch, of course, of the Democratic Party is we got to stop fascism. Well, the prime engine of fascism is the neoliberalism of the Democratic Party. Much of my family comes from Maine, rural Maine. I physically see the destruction wrought by deindustrialization. All the mills are closed. They know who sold them out. I'm not defending their politics, but they know who sold them out. And it was Joe Biden and the Clinton, particularly the Clintons. They're not, they may not have, my grandfather never finished high school, but they're not stupid. I mean, they may not have a fancy education, but they're pretty aware of, and so, the whole idea that, we wouldn't be in this mess if the Democratic Party hadn't betrayed the working class, hadn't sold us out. And they know it. They know it. They know it. I know they know it because my family is part of it.
Well, it goes back to what Chuck Schumer said when they were talking about, hey, you're losing blue-collar voters to Donald Trump, and he said it doesn't matter. For every blue-collar voter we lose in the inner city, we're going to gain 2 and 3 white-collar suburban voters, which means the Democratic Party is now longer representing workers. They're now representing the college educated. They're the Republican Party, lock, stock, and barrel, inside and out. And that is exactly what makes Donald Trump attractive to people to vote for. And we all know that. I interviewed a guy who was a Waffle House cook from Virginia. His name was Nick Smith. And he was going to vote for Donald Trump. And I asked him why. And he said, hey, look, we know Donald Trump's a loudmouth Yankee who should have had his ass kicked a long time ago. But he promises us something when Hillary Clinton is promising nothing. In fact, she's promising to close down our coal mines and do nothing for us. So they're desperate. These people are desperate. Right. These people are workers, blue collar workers, and they couldn't care less about those people. And so that is exactly the message that I hope Cornel West brings. And if he could do like what they did on Staten Island, why am I blanking on what's the Amazon? Christian Smalls. What Christian Smalls did, that's the message you got to bring. There's my enemy is not a worker. Okay.
Yeah. That's right.
And I don't care if he's a Republican or a Libertarian or a Boogaloo boy. A worker is not my enemy. We share a common enemy, and that common enemy is an oligarchy, which your democracy. That's the whole joke about January 6th. Your democracy was stolen from you decades and decades ago, which is why workers haven't had a raise since 1980.
That's right. And the other thing is that this kind of dismissiveness towards, this kind of political correctness, and it is totally self-defeating. So Cornel gets all that. He gets it, and I, I've done many events with him in front of an audience. The guy's not bullshitting you. I mean, that he's speaking from his heart. And you're right that it is about building. It's the language of class, which has been excised, but that's not been excised from Cornel's writings, his scholarship, and his public events. For him, this is a class war, and he knows which side he's on, and he doesn't bifurcate the working class into antagonistic segments, which is, of course, the playbook that the ruling elites are using. And we should be clear, Jimmy, that we talk about the Democratic Party, but the establishment wing of the Republican Party, the Mitt Romneys, Liz Cheney's, are now honorary members. I mean, Crystal. I mean, these really repugnant figures. It's really one ruling establishment party, and they're all terrified of Trump, who they created, as we should all be terrified of Trump. But they're the engine behind all of that, and they're dying. They're dying. I mean, there's no question that they're dying. And so unless we confront them with something real, and I'm not saying Cornel's going to win, I'm not that naive, but unless we confront them with something real, like Cornel, then it's over. This is our last hope. And, even if we go down, we should go down standing up for something rather than nothing. I mean, by embracing Biden and the Democrats, you're embracing a horrific track record. I mean, the Democrats are the party of war, the wholesale surveillance, austerity, NAFTA, the deregulation of the FCC, the destruction of welfare. Obama's assault on civil liberties were worse than those carried out by Bush. I mean, the public relations machine will make you feel they try to make you feel kind of warm and fuzzy to Uncle Joe, or, think of Barack Obama as, but it's all a lie. I mean, when you look at what they've done, I mean, these people are craven tools of the war industry and of Wall Street, whether it's Obama or Biden or Clinton or anyone else in the Democratic Party.
So the idea, I always thought, and I've been saying this since 2016 for a third party person, is that you don't think you're going to win the election outright, but if you can start polling at 5 or 10%, especially which I think that's so doable, especially in this area, especially when 42% of the country considers themselves independent, and then the next bigger voting block is people who don't vote. So I think that's a real. And so the idea that I always was proposing was that the third party candidate would poll, and then they could use that to be a kingmaker. It doesn't matter if it's a Republican or a Democrat which ends the wars and invests that money back here. It doesn't matter if it's a Republican or a Democrat who gives us Medicare for all. It doesn't matter if it's a Republican or a Democrat who gives us a minimum wage. So or stop censoring. So that's what I think Cornel has a chance to do. Do you think he has that chance?
Yes, that's exactly right. I mean, I worked with Nader, and Ralph said, we got to pull 5, 10, 15 million people, so we put pressure. It's about putting pressure. And historically, that's always been the case. The Progressive Party put pressure to break up monopolies. Teddy Roosevelt did it. The same with FDR. It was we write out the Communist Party with these sit-down strikes, militant labor actions. Roosevelt in his correspondence said he feared revolution. It is a game of fear. It's why Nader says our last liberal president was Richard Nixon.
That's true.
Because you got OSHA, the Mine and Safety Act, because we still had movements.
Yeah.
And politics is about fear. It's about making them afraid. That Karl Popper has that great line, the question is not how do we get good people to rule? Most people attracted to politics are mediocrities and, amoral scumbags. It's how we stop people in power from doing as much damage as possible. It's a different way of looking at the equation. And that's it. And I think that, time's running out just from, an ecological position alone. We don't have any time left. So surrendering, allowing, what they want to do is inculcate fear into us. Because in the American political system, you don't vote for what you're for, you vote what you're against, what you're afraid of. And that's just a death spiral. So we who care about these issues, social justice, freedom, destroying the oligarchy, we have to begin to stand up. And that's why Cornel's running.
And I expect there be some very strange bedfellows with Cornel West running. People would not expect if he, which I think he is serious. So I think you will see that happen. It's the only way you can oppose the oligarchy is you have to do it along class lines, just like Christian Smalls did. You have to reach out to people who normal Democratic voters would be repulsed by. But that's because they don't know how to organize, and they don't know what organizing along class lines actually means. So, well, good luck to, thanks for having that conversation with him. And are you going to work for him? You going to work for his campaign?
I'm trying not to, but it's not working out too well.
He's in.
Okay, he's in. All right, well, good luck. Hey, can you tell that story one more time that you've told on this show about Henry Kissinger, the story he told?
Yeah, it's I think it's 71 or something. One of the biggest anti-war demonstrations. They've surrounded the White House, and to protect themselves, Nixon's put empty city buses in a ring around the White House, and he's looking out the window, and he's saying, Henry, they're going to break through the barricades and get us. And that's, of course, exactly where we want power to be. It is our job to put power in that position. That is our sole job as a citizenry, and that requires organization and mass movements because individually they can walk all over us. But once we organize, we have the numbers. We have the capacity. The railroad freight workers had it. Look what Biden did to them. We have the capacity to cripple the oligarchy. I lived in France, and I loved it. I mean, the farmers got angry. They drove all their tractors into the center of Paris and shut the city down. That's what we've got to do. And that traditionally, this is why Howard Zinn's A People's History of the United States is an important book, because he illustrates how every opening in American democracy, every advance in American democracy was made through movements, the labor movement, the abolitionists, the suffragists, the civil rights movement. That's what opened up the spaces. That's what created a more equitable system. Of course, they're going to paint a history that it was a gift from wealthy white male oligarchs, but that's not the way it works. And we have to regain that understanding of class warfare, and we have to be willing to hold fast and firm to our own principles, and we will be attacked. Cornel's already being attacked, but that is the only way out. If we don't do that, we're finished.
Well, the the port workers on the West Coast have been shutting down the ports in the
good for them.
wildcat strikes, and the ports made $500 billion in profits over since COVID started, and they offer them a dollar something raise.
Right.
No kidding. 500. That's more money than freaking Big Pharma made during cuts. It's unbelievable. I can't even all that money, and so that's neoliberalism. That's where we are.
Yeah.
So hopefully those workers are waking up. They're shutting things down. Starbucks is finally being organized and unionized, and Christian Smalls and Amazon. So, and now we got Cornel West running. So hopefully we'll get people in the streets. That's what we really need.
That's what we need.
Chris Hedges, thank you so much for being our guest.
Jimmy.
Everybody check out his Substack and his show on Real News. Okay.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Hey, come see us live on tour. We'll be in Bakersfield, Baltimore, San Francisco, Huntington Beach, Rosemont, and Chicago, Las Vegas, Salt Lake City, New York City, Pottstown, Pennsylvania, Stamford, Connecticut, and more. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.